What is up, YouTube? KidMoto22 here, and I'm coming to you guys today on a commute home from work. Like I've said in other videos that I do use my motorcycle as a means of transportation to and from work, and so I'm coming to you guys today on my way home. And I thought I would talk to you about, it's gonna be a controversial one here, about why I think the Road King Special is the best Harley-Davidson in their lineup. So let's talk about that right now. Welcome back, YouTube. KidMoto22 here. And if you didn't catch it in the opening, we're going to talk about today why I think, again, my opinion, why I think the Road King Special is the best motorcycle in Harley-Davidson's lineup. So, I have been thinking a lot about if I traded my bike, if I would get a different bike, what bike I would get, and kind of what that looks like for me. And I thought a lot about the kind of riding I do, the kind of riding I like to do, what kind of riding I would like to do in the future. You know, some people buy a bike with the idea of that, you know, they bought that bike because it's going to be the bike that gets them to their next bike. And I started thinking about that with this bike, is that, am I riding a motorcycle that's getting me to my next motorcycle? Or am I really riding the motorcycle that I intend to ride for a very long time? And that's what led me to believe, and I support this, and I'll give you my reasons of why I think that this is the best motorcycle in Harley's lineup. You have to forgive me, it's pretty windy today, actually. So there's a few reasons why I think the Road King Special is the best bike in Harley's lineup. And so I'll kind of go through my reasons of why I think it is. And please hit me up in the comments below and tell me why you agree or tell me why you disagree, because I know everybody's gonna feel a certain way about this. So my number one reasons of why this is the best Harley in their lineup is that this bike fits every one of my needs. Every one of them. That's why it's the best Harley in the lineup for me. Because it fits everything that I like to do, I can do on this bike. And I'll tell you why I think it's universally the best bike. So for me, I like to travel long distance. This bike is in Harley's, touring platform, touring chassis. And so they call it a Road King for the reason, man. This bike is built to chew up miles. It also is simple enough that it doesn't have all of the fancy crap that you're gonna find on a full bagger, right? There's no big full fairing, there's no radio, GPS, all of those things. Now, I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying that this bike is designed to tour without all of that stuff. This bike can also be everything you want it to be. So for me, when I want to do touring, I've got all of the things on this bike that are set up and designed for touring. So I've got the hard side saddlebags. I put a rack on the back that I can put another bag on. You can put a full tour pack on this bike. I have a smaller size fairing for wind protection and aesthetics. If you've seen some of my videos, you know I like the look. This bike also lends itself to a bunch of different styles. So you can put ape hangers on this bike and a windshield. You can ride it just the way it comes with the mini apes and no windshield. Or you can, so you can ride it kind of a blank slate, right? So another reason why I think that this is the perfect bike in Harley's lineup is engine size. I think the 107 engine Now, the 2020 is a 114, which I also think is very good. But the 107 is kind of that perfect mix, right? It gives you enough engine that you can do everything you want. It's got the 6-speed transmission. It's got this really nice sweet spot between 70 and 90 miles an hour for cruising the highway if you're going to do a lot of distance traveling, which if you know anything about me and my channel, you know I like to take the long trips. And so for me, this engine size is perfect because it hits that sweet spot where I'm still getting good gas mileage, but I can still cruise at between 70 and 90 and not really have any trouble. I can cruise 2 up really easily, going between 70 and 90 with my wife on it, and it can handle that without a problem. It's not even, I mean, with me on it going those speeds, it's not even acting like there's anybody on the bike. 2 up, obviously I can feel a little bit of a difference that the bike is working a little bit harder, but truly I can go with me, my bike fully loaded down with, you know, supplies for camping or whatever, and go 90, and my bike's sitting at about 3,200 RPM. So I know there's a lot more left in it. I know the bike is set at a red line, and I can take that out with the FP3 if I wanted to, you know, so that I take that governor off there, and it'll go over whatever the 105 is that they've set the top speed at. I'm not worried about that, but it cruises just fine for what I like, how I like to ride, and what I like to do with it at that, like I said, 70 to 90 mile per hour. The touring chassis is another reason why. This bike is designed for touring, so it's got the little bit wider and a little bit longer chassis. I'm 6'3", 230 pounds. A bigger bike just fits me better. The coloring of this bike, I like a black bike. The Road King Special is blacked out. Has a few chrome accents, which I wish it didn't, but it does. They don't bother me too much, but for the most part, this is a blacked out bike. I prefer that. Another reason why I think this is the perfect bike. One of the reasons, and this is a bit kind of getting into more of the technical side, is that the touring chassis on these bikes after the Rushmore project, the touring chassis now is set up very much like Harley's FXR series. The FXR in the Harley world is widely considered to be the best handling motorcycle that Harley-Davidson ever made. Okay? Is this a replica? No. I would call it a cousin to the FXR. That's what I would call it. It's not an exact dimension of the FXR, but I would call it a cousin. It's a little bit longer and a little bit wider than the FXR chassis, but for the most part, it is very similar to what you'd find in the FXR, which again, in many of the Harley cultures, is widely considered the best handling Harley-Davidson that was ever produced. This is going to be controversial too. I'm going to say price point. Now, all Harley-Davidsons are overpriced. I'll give you that right now. I think they're all overpriced. But in terms of what you get for your money and how I like to ride, this bike gets you in the touring family. Now, the special version is a little bit higher than the standard Road King is, but the special version also gives you the stretch bags and some of the fancy things that I like about it. But it gives you everything that's in the touring family and none of the extras that are going to cost you a ton of money, right? So you don't have a full fairing or the bat wing or the shark nose, but you also don't have a stereo system, which I don't personally care for. You don't have the GPS or the navigation or Harley's, you know, stereo system, whatever that's called now. You don't have any of that on this bike. It's in its simplest and purest form of a Harley touring bike, but it gives you some of the special features that I really like. So for me, that's another reason why I think this is the best Harley in the lineup, is that price point. Another reason is aftermarket. Now, Harley dominates the aftermarket world in all of their platforms, just about, except for maybe some of their limited run bikes that they have, you know, fewer parts for. I would say like the Sport Glide's probably one of them. There's not nearly as big of an aftermarket for the Sport Glide as there is for some of the other ones. Now, the Sport Glide is a very amazing bike on its own. But the aftermarket, because this fits into the bagger category, there's a lot of parts for baggers that fit on this bike. So there's performance parts, there are lots of cosmetic extras that you can do. There's a good aftermarket market that also supports this. Advan Black makes bags, lids, they make fairing lowers, they make fenders, I believe. I know that there's some other companies that make fenders and stuff that work for these bikes too. So the aftermarket is still very good for the Road King lineup, the Road King Special specifically. And so you can still mod your bike in a ton of ways to even customize it more and still make it your own. However, it's going to, you know, those things are, and those are relative, those mods are relative, whether you think they're affordable or expensive. I mean, it's a Harley, so most things are at the top of the motorcycle mod price range, but there's still, you know, a very good aftermarket for this style of bike. So all those things considered, to me, again, it supports the idea that this is the best Harley in their lineup. You can make this thing a performance machine. You can make it a touring machine. It's not the weight of the big touring bikes, so it's going to be, you know, pretty nimble in comparison to a full touring bike to travel in town, to use as a, you know, in-town rider. It still makes a very good, you know, everyday kind of commuter bike. Is it as good as some of the smaller commuter bikes would be? No, because that's not its sole purpose. This bike is like the utility knife, the Swiss Army knife of the Harley-Davidson lineup. It does everything well. It doesn't do anything spectacularly well, but it does everything well. Now, once I've done the changes I've made to the bike, I think it's spectacular. I think it's a perfect bike. So yeah, I guess that's about what I have today, kind of what I wanted to talk about in terms of why I think that this is the best Harley in the lineup. And let me know your feelings. If you agree with me, tell me why you agree, because your reasons might be different than mine. And if you disagree, please tell me why you disagree. Tell me why your bike, you know, if you own a Harley-Davidson, why you think the Harley-Davidson that you have is the perfect bike in their lineup. Now, you know, I've said before why this is the perfect bike for me, but I'm saying that this bike is also the perfect bike in Harley's lineup. The best Harley-Davidson that they make is the Road King Special. I stand by that. So, yeah, that's what I got. So, if you like what I'm doing, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more of what I'm doing, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to probably land that up here or over here. And let me know what you think about the Harley-Davidson Road King Special being the best one in the lineup. So, I don't have anything more for you guys. This is Kid Moto. I'm out.